You can go on stage and have an opinion, and I can be in the audience, and I have a completely different opinion. I don't agree with you at all. I'm like, I don't agree with this guy. But if you go on stage with an opinion, you make me laugh, you have somehow or another, you've injected that idea into my mind, and now I have to consider how the irony and how the comedic value of your expressing that opinion is
Unfortunately, you're not the first guy to notice this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Hitler knew it, and that's why Cabaret is such a great piece, because those clubs, those cabaret clubs in Germany, and if you laugh with someone, it's like
how did Hitler use that?
He shut down the clubs. He shut down all that. Have you never seen Cabaret?
No.
Oh, you've got to see Cabaret. So these incredible German clubs.
What year is that from?
Well, Cabaret, like the movies, Liza Minnelli, 72 maybe.
And that's what it's
about? The musical
about?
run. Yeah. So these clubs, it's like the end of it is like the heartbreaker. I'm kind of ruining the ending. But it's these clubs in Germany in the 30s of like these incredible, full of life, magical people. And, you know, lots of Jewish people in those cabaret clubs telling jokes and being funny and whatever. And the Nazis realized, well, if you laugh with those people, you can't hate those people.
Oh.
If you laugh with someone, like, what's that great phrase? Like, anti-Semitism cannot survive a Shabbat dinner.
Huh.
It can't. Like, if you've got Jewish friends and you laugh with them, what are you talking about, anti-Semitism?
Right.
But if you can make them seem like other, then it's very dangerous. So that thing of going, the nailing the landing of Cabaret. I remember seeing one, Alan Cummings, doing Cabaret in London. And these people that you've seen singing and dancing and living their lives. And then at the end of the show, they're in pajamas and the snow falls. And you realize they all got wiped out. It's like, oh.
Wow. What's really horrific about human beings is how recent that was. And how we have sort of dismissed that as an artifact of time. And that it's not possible today. But
it's very scary. I think people give themselves, listen, not everyone, but people sort of think, well, if slavery was going on today, I'd fight it. And if Hitler was around today, I'd fight it. And you go, but he is. And there is. There's 40 million slaves currently in the world.
Yeah. More slaves during the world in the world right now than during 1865 when they abolished slavery in America.
Horrific. And you look at North Korea. If you want to
That's
see,
the best example.
You know, if you want to see a state where, I mean, we have very little news from there. Very few people get out, but the ones that do, it's
horrific.
George Orwell's 1984. It's happening right now
somewhere,
and we're not. Yeah. I mean, I kind of thought that was like an interesting idea on America's original sin is slavery, and there's no way to change the past. But one thing you could do, if you can't work out reparations, and people don't seem to be able to work out what to do with that, but one thing you could do is make America's foreign policy, why don't we just stop slavery? Who couldn't get behind that?
Right.
Globally, to say, well, just you've got an incredible military. There's injustice going on in the world. That idea of being the world's policeman, I don't know. I mean, freeing slaves, who could disagree with that?
Well,
who's putting up a case against it?
The problem is that you're addressing the way the United States interfaces with the world as if we're just trying to do overall good. That's not really what happens with this whole empire building thing. It's what's really going on is controlling resources and coming up with some reason that you have to intervene in order to acquire these resources or control these resources or protect your resources.
I think it's, you know what I think that is? Short money. Short money, because what's a resource? There's things that are resources now that won't be in 20 years. You know what the biggest industry in the world was in 1903?
Beavers.
Very close. I'll give you I'll pass you, I'll give you a C. Whaling was the biggest industry in the world in 1903, and whaling disappeared overnight. Like in a year and a half, it was gone. Those towns were just emptied because the whale oil wasn't required anymore. Because suddenly we discovered petrochemicals.
Electricity too.
Petrochemicals was really the thing. Yeah, the whale oil, electricity, Edison, all of that stuff for Tesla. It's really interesting how that industry just fell away. It's like the story of horse manure in New York City. You know this?
No.
So horse manure, you know why the brownstones have got steps up to the front door? You ever wondered about that? Why is the ground floor not on the ground floor? Why is it up steps?
Why?
Horse shit.
Really?
There was horse shit everywhere. They've always got those metal scrapers by the side. To get the horse shit off. You know the old movies, they always talk about smelling salts. There's a lot of references to smelling salts. Yeah, the smell was horrific. If a horse died in the street, you had to wait for it to atrophy to cut it up and take it away. New York was the sound. Cobbled streets, metal wheels on the carts. Horses everywhere. So they made a law to say, right, horses, we're going to put a tax on them. Didn't change anything. Made another law the next year. We're doubling the taxes. Right, we're going to do a thing with, we're going to say if you have a horse, then you have to do this, you have to do that, whatever it was. It kept on. And what stopped it? Henry Ford. Cars came along, all gone. There's 5 of them left in Central Park.
Right.
All gone in no time. Whaling disappeared over the night. That thing of like, what's a resource now? America trying to get resources overseas. I mean, I don't want to sound like a Boy Scout, but I think freeing slaves would be a much better thing to do than trying to get control of an oil field somewhere where you go, that's not going to be a resource in 10 years' time.
Yeah, the problem is it's a resource now. And it's a phenomenal one in terms of the amount of money that you could acquire.
But I mean, cobalt wasn't a resource
Right.
20 years ago.
Right.
And now we really need cobalt. And suddenly, I mean, the things that are happening to get it are just horrific.
Yeah. I had Siddharth Carr on the podcast. He's a journalist that went to the Congo to document this and brought back video footage.
The Democratic Republic of Congo? Mm-hmm. Any country with democratic in the name, that's a fucking red flag, isn't it? That's a red flag. If they go, hey, we're democratic. Are you, though? Yeah. Are you?
Yeah.
It's hell on earth out there. It's happening right now. I think that thing of like people saying, well, I would go and make a difference. Well, there's stuff going on now if you want to get involved.
Well, what's so ironic is that it's one of the most horrific conditions that human beings are imposed upon human beings, but yet it is required in order for you to have a cell phone and complain about the injustices of the world. Every single person that has one of these things, you have in it minerals that were carved out of the ground by people living in the most insane conditions.
Child labor, slavery. I mean,
slavery, and not just that, like people with babies on their back that are breathing in this cobalt dust, horrific health consequences, everything, all the above. Abject poverty, no electricity.
I mean, here's like the big thing again, gratitude. Go back to gratitude. We don't live there. Anyone listening to a podcast is, we're doing great. What can we do about it? I don't know. I mean, this is part of the anxiety of the modern world because we're surrounded by problems, told about problems that we have no agency there.
Yeah.
We can't sort of do anything.